Well, thank you. Good evening. I'm Lincoln McCurdy, and welcome, and thank you so very much for coming tonight. We're going to be honoring two distinguished members of Congress this evening, and tonight really signifies an end of one chapter of Turkish-American political activism and the beginning of another chapter of Turkish-American activism. And I'd like to just quote a sentence from President Obama's press statement after a meeting with Prime Minister Erdogan. And the president had this to say: "There are strong ties between our countries as a consequence of the Turkish-American community that has been established here." And I think tonight reflects that. And as we've been saying, the stability and the endurance of the U.S.-Turkish relationship, that burden falls on the shoulders of Turkish Americans. If we want to have stability, if we want to have a consistent working relationship between our two great countries, Turkish Americans have to speak out more, and we're seeing that. And as I said earlier, as we're ending one chapter, which was started by Congressman Wexler over 10 years ago, when there was practically when there was no Turkish caucus on Capitol Hill, when there was only one Turkish American working on Capitol Hill as a congressional staffer. And now, as Congressman Wexler ends his distinguished career and starting a new career, we now have over 100 members in the Turkish caucus and over 6 Turkish Americans working on Capitol Hill. We still don't have a Turkish American as an elected official on Capitol Hill, but that will be at the next session. But it gives me great pleasure to introduce Congressman Mike McMahon. And as he begins the second chapter in the Turkish-American political activism, his challenge is things are different when Congressman Wexler began. When Congressman Wexler began, it took, I don't think a member of Congress would have, from New York, would have even dared to join the Turkish caucus. And now we're having a member from the New York congressional delegation who joined the Turkish caucus, who has been very active in the Turkish caucus, and whose constituency has not only Turkish Americans, but Greek Americans, Armenian Americans, and he's playing a role as a bridge builder among all these communities. So speaking on behalf of my friends of the Turkish community, we're all Americans, and we need members of Congress that brings Greek Americans and Turkish Americans together, Armenian Americans and Turkish Americans together, because if we can work together here, we can maybe export that back to that region, and this is a win-win for everybody. And the Turkish-American voice had not been heard before. It started being heard under Congressman Wexler. Now we're making great speed with Congressman McMahon coming on board and serving a district that has representation from all these communities. So that's what's exciting, and we have this wonderful challenge ahead of us. So I'll end my little spiel now, and if I may ask Congressman McMahon to come to the stage.
Thank you, Lincoln. That was wonderful, and I want to thank you, and of course Lydia. I want to thank the senator who's here. I want to thank the ambassador, and of course my great colleague in Congress, Robert Wexler. I want to thank all of you for coming as well. I want to thank Dick Stephen Shapiro for hosting us here, and just say what a privilege and an honor it is to be here. It is for me just another step forward. In the last 11 months, you come to Washington as a freshman or a freshwoman. There are a lot of things you try to accomplish, and you sometimes with a helping hand you can accomplish a lot more. And certainly getting on the Foreign Affairs Committee and meeting Robert and learning from him and watching his example of being an effective legislator is something I'm very grateful for. And then talking with him and learning from the Washington side, what he's done with the Turkish caucus was a learning experience for me as well. The point is, and as Lincoln said, I come from Staten Island and Brooklyn, New York. And it is one of those areas, great areas of New York, where you have this really just blossoming, growing, exploding diversity. I am the son of an immigrant, and you have this great immigrant experience that is America, but it's really, you can feel it, and because of the great food back home, you can taste it as well. And really, people say, you know, Staten Island or Brooklyn, tough place to grow up. You may see that on MTV or something, but the food makes it all worth it, I can tell you that right now. And it is true that it's a place where, in that melting pot tradition, where you do have Greek Americans living side by side with Turkish Americans, and you have Armenian Americans living together side by Turkish Americans, and you have, you know, Jews and Muslims living side by side, and all of those conflicts we see around the world, if we can build these bridges here, as you say, certainly we can make an impact on the world as well, and that's one of the reasons I came when I came to Congress, sought a seat on the Foreign Affairs Committee. Subject matter that interests me very much, but also it helps me serve the district better. Before coming to Congress, for those of you who don't know me, I was a New York City councilman for 7 years from the northern part of Staten Island. I am the first Democrat to ever represent this congressional seat configured as Staten Island and Brooklyn. It was drawn for Republicans. There was a Democrat in the 1970s, but at that time it was Staten Island and Lower Manhattan. And now I won the seat under unusual circumstances, to say the least, and now we're fighting very hard to hold on to it. And your being here tonight, your financial support is very important to us. You know that. You know that we in Congress have to focus on that more than we'd like, but your help certainly makes me, gives me the sort of the energy and the support that allows me to keep working hard on behalf of Turkish Americans and all the people in the district and all of those in this country as well. Yeah, it's a privilege really to be in the Turkish caucus. I really had no choice coming down. I talked to Robert about it a little bit, but you should know that on our staff, someone who came into our campaign, and she very much got involved in the campaign and then said, oh, come on, we've got to go to Brooklyn. You have a Turkish community over there, and we met with people like Ibrahim and others from Ibrahim Kulish. Right? Yes, Kulish. And now she's here working with us in Washington, so I guess she's 1/6 of the Turkish American caucus working on Capitol Hill, and that's nice to rock a little bit. And what has she taught me? She taught me some very important things. She's mad at me that I did not begin the program by saying merhaba. And I'm also just lucky to have a great chief of staff who worked for 8 years with Congressman Joe Crowley, and then had a moment of weakness and went down to K Street to make a lot of money as a lobbyist, and then refound himself, and now he's with us up back on the Hill, and that's Chris McCannell. Chris, if you would say hello. And